What's up, gamers? This is that PlayStation Gamer. Today, we're going to talk about EA and them being the next Ubisoft, man. Because right now, I think I guess you would say, hype for EA games. That's absolutely at an all-time low. And I think with the recent news that Dragon Age Veilguard was obviously a failure, and they're even like their own sports games are starting to fail me some of those quotas. I do have some serious concerns for the future of EA. I think right now, unless you're Respawn, there's nothing valuable with EA. Like, I know some people will look at something like Dice and say, "Oh, see, they produce games," but it's like, yeah, but when was the last time you gave a shit about a Battlefield game? Like, when was the last time we actually got a Battlefield game? It's actually to be a better question. Like, I get, people want to be hyped. People want to get excited for new games, but it's like, I just don't see EA making a recovery. And like, I know this is some doom and gloom talk, but man, BioWare missed the mark big time. To the point that I think it has done, Dragon Age Veilguard itself has done irreversible damage. And listen, I try not to get into the politics when it comes to studios and all that stuff, but we gotta talk about the big problem with Dragon Age Veilguard and just how this game just felt like it was a platform for people to preach their beliefs and make the most inoffensive game they could make. Like, we're talking a game where there's a active part in the story where a character misgenders someone and has to be humiliated for it as a way to learn not to make that mistake again. Like, I get it, it kind of makes sense in the context, but it's like, the world's literally, being destroyed. The two elven gods are destroying the fucking world. And we're sitting here worrying about misgendering people. Like, come on, man. Come on. Priorities. And I think that's been a problem for a while with, I would say even like the Dragon Age series and Mass Effect series. I think there's a problem with just not having this urgency, in their games. But even past the wokeness and stuff, which yes, I do think there is some in there. It's just, I'm not against wokeness in video games. I am a very progressive person. I'm a person who sits there and says he loves The Last of Us Part 2, okay? That has a character in there that's trans. But there's a time and place to handle these situations, and it's not when the world's literally being destroyed. It doesn't help that this is a fantasy series that at one point was very dark, very gory. There's quest lines in Dragon Age 1 that were some pretty dark subjects, like literally a child being possessed. It's not even something that is feasible in a Dragon Age Veilguard, because Dragon Age Veilguard is the most inoffensive game you could play. At the end of the day, it's a nothing game with a nothing story and nothing fries, and it sets up for more nothingness. No one cares about the future of Dragon Age because Veilguard took a shit all over it. It took a shit over the entire legacy of not just Dragon Age, but it's made people to say, we have no interest in Mass Effect. The Mass Effect game that they announced, that we know that's a long ways away, at least a couple years, they've said. At least maybe 2 to 5 years. No one has any faith in. I don't have any faith in. And this is coming from a guy who liked the Mass Effect trilogy. Even was willing to overlook some of the bad parts of Andromeda and say, hey, much as Andromeda is a mess when it comes to the story, the gameplay is actually pretty okay. It's not the best, but it was okay. It got the job done. It did what it was supposed to do. But there's just no faith in EA. There's no faith in EA, and there's no faith in BioWare. And when you take BioWare out of the equation, what do they have left? They have their sports games, which, again, from what I know, have been missing the mark. No one cares about them. No one wants to play them. And Angry Joe is the probably only person who keeps playing Madden every year so he can make a video about it and talk about how it's not changed at all. how Madden at one point was the peak of football games has now become the literal epitome of just not giving a shit what you put out. But then you got Respawn. Respawn. I like Respawn. I think they are the only developers at I almost said BioWare, EA, that are worth a damn. I think when you have talent that can make something like Titanfall 2, but that the marketing was, not there, that EA put it between two much bigger franchises instead of delaying it so that it could actually have a spotlight in the sun later, they doomed that game. Apex Legends, probably one of the few multiplayer games I see people still play, and even I've heard that game's starting to face some, issues. I've heard people say that they like the Jedi games, Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order, but they feel kind of like nothing. They kind of feel like, oh yeah, this is proof that a good Star Wars game can exist, but it's nothing you haven't seen before. And then, of course, they were working on that Mandalorian game, supposedly. What happened to that? It got canceled. Got canceled because EA wanted to save money somewhere. So instead of cutting Dragon Age Veilguard off, they cut off a potential game seller, a big blockbuster game with the Star Wars license attached to it, all just to save some money. And this is why you should not let, corporate guys run publishing companies, because they are just the worst at making decisions. Look at Jim Ryan. Much as I can sit here and say that I didn't think Jim Ryan was the worst thing to happen to Sony, he was pretty fucking close. And I'm seeing the same problems pop up with EA that we see with Ubisoft. There's nothing to get excited for, and the stuff that we are excited for are too far out. Do I even have to mention how Ubisoft is still dicking around with Beyond Good and Evil 2? We've heard nothing about it. Literally, outside of the latest trailer they put out, that's it. That's all they did. They just announced it at like the next couple of years. They were like, oh yeah, we're still working on it. But now we don't even know if that's being worked on anymore. Yeah, I know that's not EA's fault, but do you see the problem popping up? Do you see how these publishing studios, at the end of the day, have done the worst offense possible? Not wokeness in video games, not greedy microtransactions. It's not giving a crap about what they put out and have no fucking vision for the future. EA and Ubisoft have no vision for the future. They are going to try to, sell out. I predict this. This is one of my predictions for going forward for the next 5 years. At some point, you're going to hear Ubisoft sold and EA sold. Because right now what they're making isn't valuable, the IP library they have, both of those companies, is valuable. Just think about it. If they did a Dragon Age Origins remaster, people would be excited. People are like, yes, finally, something we want. Of course, EA doesn't want to do it. But if someone else bought the company and, has their head to the fucking ground, ear to the ground, they might do it. And while I think, some people will say, Microsoft might buy EA, I think Activision Blizzard was just a little too big. Now the eyes are on them. Tencent probably could, but then you would have to worry about them being on the chopping block. There's this thing I want to talk about for years now. And I think it's one of the big regrets Microsoft should have done. Because I think now with the benefit of hindsight, we know how big this studio could have been. And that's Respawn. There was a time where Respawn was an independent company. There was probably a time where Microsoft could have bought Respawn. Do you know how valuable that would have been for Microsoft? And do you realize, if Respawn didn't happen, if EA didn't buy Respawn, EA would only have BioWare. And with the current state BioWare's in now, they're worthless. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on what's going on with EA and how I think they're the next Ubisoft. I think if there's other company besides Ubisoft that's going to sell out, it's going to be EA. because no one in the company cares. The most valuable thing they have is their old IP library, and that's it. So until next time, guys, this is That PlayStation Gamer signing out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think the truth is somewhere in the middle? And let me know. And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that YouTube art and BS.